Now, one thing is for certain is that in 2025, we are seeing the slow turn of the tide from many different Hollywood studios out there, beginning to drop DEI departments slowly but surely. We have a lot of other scenarios happening simultaneously right now where a lot of these top executives, a lot of these bigwigs, if you will, are beginning to realize that there's really no way of making money when you are doubling down on DEI that's driving away customers, driving away viewers and audience members out there, and it's all working hand in hand together in a very negative fashion right now, based on how there are some studios that are clinging to DEI while others are trying to drop it as fast as possible. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future updates. You can also follow me at Mike01. I thank you all so very much for the great and kind support. Now, ever since the 2022 Oscars slap situation between Will Smith and Chris Rock after what Will Smith did, there's no denying the fact here that he lost a large percentage of his core fan base that want nothing to do with him anymore. They lost all respect for him. I know I sure did back in 22. And now he's in this phase where he is trying to revitalize, essentially, a lot of previous franchises that he was involved in, like Men in Black, Bad Boys, etc., etc. Now, to top things off, we know that Jada Pinkett Smith is dead smack in the middle of a lot of drama happening between himself and some various studios out there within the Hollywood bubble, such as Columbia Pictures and Sony. And we have a lot to discuss here because Will Smith has been acting very erratic as of late after a lot of changes and alterations have been made for Men in Black 5 and among other projects, especially though Men in Black 5 and the entire franchise of Men in Black. Let's get into this, shall we? Now, with the entire film industry and the woke media now in a financial crisis, one monumental development that is now brewing involves more to do with Will Smith and what he recently did and how he behaved in response to a specific action by a studio. It turns out that Will Smith recently went on a tirade after learning that Sony is now planning to kill off his character Agent J from Men in Black 5, as story elements are now changing drastically at last minute with some creative differences in the mix. Already, Will Smith had a nervous breakdown since he wants to actually get involved in the Men in Black franchise further, and since he wants the Men in Black franchise to live on beyond a fifth film, and demanded the Sony and Columbia Picture Studios to immediately reverse this decision. Now, the demise of Agent J was to make room to also break the initial plans to create another Men in Black trilogy and to reboot the franchise after the fifth film that would no longer star Will Smith, something that Smith is lashing out over towards Sony executives and its CEO for making this call, as they are looking to recast and reimagine Agent J after the fifth film. Now, Will Smith already got involved in multiple heated arguments with the executives of both Sony and Columbia after they informed him that Men in Black 5 also faces a high chance of getting cancelled if production does not move soon enough, as they are planning to release the film in 2027 at the very latest. Already, Smith is blaming the executives for acting the way as judging him based on what he did at the 2022 Oscars. This was the claim by Will Smith towards Sony as to why they are ditching plans for a new Men in Black trilogy starring Smith. Only a fifth film will include Will for a certain purpose, and Will is also warning Sony and Columbia that he is getting ready to go public over his issues with these two studios in the coming weeks if a resolution to this issue is not seen in the coming weeks. Already, Smith is also blaming Sony for reimagining, of course, Agent J and remaining biased against him because of Jada Pinkett Smith, who created some trouble at Sony after she tried to piggyback on Will's success by getting a part in Men in Black 5 when she was actually shot down by the executives. So before I move on, let me just say one thing about that too, is that we already know that Will Smith is really trying to expand the franchises of Men in Black and Bad Boys. We know that Bad Boys 5 is in development as we speak, as well as Men in Black 5. But there's a lot of changes happening right now for the Men in Black 5 film because they want to kill off Agent J to essentially kind of restart the franchise after that, you know, rebuild it from the ground up, reboot the franchise starring somebody else younger and a different actor, and Will Smith isn't having it because, as far as he knew, they were actually on track for doing a 6th and 7th film starring Will Smith as well to create this new trilogy, and now all bets are off. Sony does not want to do a new trilogy starring Will Smith based on how he's been acting as of late behind closed doors, trying to get Jada Pinkett Smith in the door for Men in Black 5. That also backfired, and we have a lot more to talk about that as well. So this is also creating a lot of chaos between Sony and Columbia that are working hand in hand to get Men in Black 5 back on track, to really get this thing working. And so far, it's just not working at all. And we already know that, you know, the character Agent J, this is a character that Will Smith values and deeply respects, because in his mind, it is one of the many characters out there that really kickstarted his career in the film industry, right? We're talking about in the film industry. Sure, he had his time on television with Bel-Air, but as far as films go, he is wildly known for Men in Black, for Independence Day, and other movies out there. Moving on. Now, to top things off here, Will already blamed them for discriminating his wife, Jada, as to why she did not get a part in Men in Black 5, and though Will did not want her in Bad Boys 5, he did try to get her involved in the 5th film for Men in Black. Now, Jada was immediately shot down by Sony, and it created an entire argument coming from Will. With plans for an entire Men in Black trilogy now officially dead, Smith is already attempting to take some form of action towards Sony and Columbia in an attempt to get these decisions reversed. He already has plans to talk about the studio politics happening behind the scenes for the 5th Men in Black film. This in turn is also causing Sony to part ways from Will Smith by canceling other films that he was supposed to be the main star in. Sony is also in the process of dropping DEI from Men in Black 5, something that Will Smith had a nervous breakdown over and got very furious about towards Sony. So again, I mean, Sony's making the right call here with MIB5 by dropping diversity, equity, and inclusion. Will Smith is not having that one bit. He wanted a complete diverse cast just for the sake of having a diverse cast, instead of focusing on creativity and art and professionalism when it comes to how a story is made. And people just want the story, right? This is where Disney did things wrong. They didn't focus on just creating a story for many projects out there. They focused on things like DEI, like a certain percentage of the cast has to be, you know, this ethnicity or has to come from this place. And that's what Sony was going to do, but they dropped it. And you know what? I mean, as much as a critic I am of Sony in 2025 especially, that was one of the right calls that they made, one of the most sudden calls in the past 5 years to drop DEI from Men in Black 5. So again, this is going to be a very interesting turn of events when it comes to the entirety of Hollywood, the entirety of the film industry, and how now you have Will Smith lashing out towards Sony/Columbia because he's not getting things done his way for the Men in Black franchise, where as opposed to 3 movies, it's now boiled down to just 1 film starring Will Smith, and it's not looking good for himself to revitalize that franchise starring himself as Agent J, because they now want to kill off the character in MIB5. We'll talk more about the story elements of the 5th film in the coming weeks. I think it's going to be quite interesting because they're trying to expedite the production process right now with this, and it's going to be quite something, let me just tell you that. But overall, I would like to hear what everyone has to say about Will and Jada and the whole situation happening at Sony and Columbia. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys later.